Chapter 5. Before going to the cocktail party at David Lake's apartment, Quillerin went home to change clothes and give the cat a slice of corned beef he had bought at the delicatessen. Coco greeted him by flying around the room in a catly expression of joy, over chairs, under tables, around lamps, up to the top of bookshelves, down to the floor with a thud and a grunt, making sharp turns in midair at 60 miles an hour. Lamps teetered. Ashtrays spun around. The limp curtains rippled in the breeze. Then Coco leaped on the dictionary and scratched for all he was worth, with his rear end up, his front end down, his tail pointed skyward, like a toboggan slide with a flag on top. He scratched industriously, stopped to look at Quillerin, and scratched again. No time for games, Quillerin said. I'm going out. Cocktail party. Maybe I'll bring you home an olive. He put on a pair of pants that had just come from the cleaner, unpinned a newly purchased shirt, and looked for his new tie. He found it draped over the arm of the sofa. There was a hole in it, center front, and Quillerin groaned. That left only one plaid tie in good condition. He whipped it off the doorknob where it hung and tied it around his neck, grumbling to himself. Meanwhile, Coco sat on the dictionary, hopefully preparing for a game. No game tonight, Quillerin told him again. You eat your corned beef, and then have a nice long nap. The newsman set out for the party with threefold anticipation. He hoped to make some useful contacts. He was curious about the fashionable and expensive Villa Veranda, and he was looking forward to seeing David Lake again. He liked the man's irreverent attitude. Lake was not what Quillerin had expected a decorator to be. Lake was neither precious nor a snob, and he wore his spectacular good looks with a casual grace. The Villa Veranda, a recent addition to the cityscape, was an 18-story building curved around a landscaped park, each apartment with a balcony. Quillerin found his host's apartment alive with the sound of bright chatter, clinking glasses, and music from hidden loudspeakers. In a pleasant, rumbling voice, Lake said, "Is this your first visit to the Villa Veranda? We call this building the Architect's Revenge. The balconies are designed to be too sunny, too windy, and too dirty. The cinders that hurtle through my living room are capable of putting out an eyeball. But it's a good address. Some of the best people live in this building. Several of them blind in one eye." He opened a sliding glass door in the glass wall and showed Quillerin the balcony, where metal furniture stood ankle-deep in water, and the wind made ripples on the surface. "The balconies become wading pools for 3 days after every rain," he said. "When there's a high wind, the railings vibrate and play Ave Maria by the hour. And notice our unique view, a panorama of 92 other balconies." The apartment itself had a warmly livable atmosphere. Everywhere there were lighted candles, books in good leather bindings, plants of the exotic type, paintings in important frames, and heaps of pillows. A small fountain in one corner was busy splashing, and the wallpaper was the most sumptuous Quillerin had ever seen, like silver straw with a tracery of peacocks. The predominant note was Oriental. He noticed an Oriental screen, some bow-legged black tables, and a Chinese rug in the dining room. Some large pieces of Far Eastern sculpture stood in a bed of pebbles, lighted by concealed spotlights. Quillerin said to Lake, "We should photograph this." "I was going to suggest something else in this building," said the decorator. "I did Harry Norton's apartment, just a pied-à-terre that he uses for business entertaining, but it's tastefully done in wall-to-wall money, and the colors are smart, in a ghastly way. I've used eggplant, spinach, and overripe melon." "Who is Harry Norton?" Quillerin asked. "The name sounds familiar." "You must have heard of him. He's the most vocal, silent partner in town. Harry owns the ballpark, a couple of hotels, and probably the city hall. I'd like to meet him. You will. He's dropping in tonight. I'd really like to see you publish Harry's country house in Lost Lake Hills, all artsy craftsy contemporary, but there's an awkward situation in the family at the moment, and it might not be advisable. Now come and meet some of the guests. Starkweather is here, with his lovely wife, who is getting to be a middle-aged sot. But I can't say that I blame her. Lyke's partner was sitting quietly at one end of the sofa, but Mrs. Starkweather was circulating diligently. There was a frantic gaiety in her aging face, and her costume was a desperate shade of pink. She clung to Lyke in an amorous way when he introduced Quillerin. "I'm in love with David," she told the newsman, waving a cocktail glass in a wide arc. "Isn't he just too overwhelming? Those eyes, and that sexy voice." "Easy, sweetheart," said Lyke. "Do you want your husband to shoot me?" He turned to Quillerin. "This is one of the hazards of the profession. We're so lovable." After Lyke disengaged himself from Mrs. Starkweather's grip, she clung to Quillerin's arm and went on prattling. "Decorators give marvelous parties. There are always lots of men, and the food is always so good. David has a marvelous caterer, but the drinks are too potent." She giggled. "Do you know many decorators? They're lots of fun. They dress so well and they dance so well. My husband isn't really a decorator. He used to be in the wholesale carpet business. He handles the money at L&S. David is the one with talent. I adore David." Most of the guests were decorators, Quillerin discovered. All the men were handsome, the majority of them young. The women were less so, but what they lacked in beauty and youth, they made up in vivacity and impressive clothes. Everyone had an easy charm. They complimented Quillerin on his new magazine, the luxuriance of his mustache, and the fragrance of his pipe tobacco. Conversation flitted from one subject to another: travel, fashion, rare wine, ballet, and the dubious abilities of other decorators. Repeatedly, the name of Jacques Boulanger came up and was dismissed with disapproval. No one, Quillerin noticed, was disposed to discuss the November election, or the Major League pennant race, or the situation in Asia, and none of the guests seemed disturbed by the news of the Tate theft. They were merely amused that it should have happened to a client of David's. One young man of fastidious appearance approached Quillerin and introduced himself as Bob Aurex. He had an oval, aristocratic face with elevated eyebrows. "Ordinarily," he told the newsman, "I don't follow crime news, but my family knew the Tates, and I was fascinated by the item in today's paper. I had no idea Georgie had amassed so much jade. He and Siggy haven't entertained for years. Mother went to school with Siggy in Switzerland, you know." "No, I didn't know." "Siggy's family had more brains than affluence, Mother says. They were all scientists and architects, and it was rather a coup when Siggy married a rich American. Georgie had hair in those days, according to Mother." "How did the Tates make their money?" Quillerin asked. "In a rather quaint and charming way. Georgie's grandfather made a mint, an absolute mint, manufacturing buggy whips. But Mother says Georgie himself has never had a taste for business. Monkey business, perhaps, but nothing that you can put in the bank." "Tate was devoted to his jade collection," said Quillerin. "I felt very bad about the theft." "That," said Aurex loftily, "is what happens when you hire cheap help. When Father was alive, he always insisted on English butlers and Irish maids. My family had money at one time. Now we get by on our connections. And I have a little shop on River Street that helps to keep the wolf from the door." "I'd like to call on you someday," said Quillerin. "I'm in the market for story material. Frankly, I doubt whether your readers are quite ready for me, said the decorator. I specialize in planned ugliness, and the idea is rather advanced for the average taste. But do come, you might find it entertaining. By the way, who is this Jacques Boulanger I keep hearing about? Boulanger? The Aurochs' eyebrows elevated a trifle higher. He does work for the Duxburys, the Pennymans, and all the other old families in Muggy Swamp. He must be good. In our business, said the decorator, success is not always an indication of excellence. Bless you, you have no drink. May I get you something from the bar? It was not the bar that interested Quillerin. It was the buffet. It was laden with caviar, shrimp, a rare bit in a chafing dish, marinated mushrooms, stuffed artichoke hearts, and savory meatballs in a dill sauce. As he loaded his plate for the third time, he glanced into the kitchen and saw the large stainless steel warming oven of a professional caterer. A smiling Oriental caught his eye and nodded encouragement, and Quillerin signaled a compliment in the man's direction. Meanwhile, a guest with a big, ungainly figure and a craggy face sauntered over to the buffet and started popping tidbits into his mouth, washing them down with gulps from a highball glass. I like these kids, these decorators, he said to the newsman. They invite me to a lot of their parties, but how they ever make a living is beyond me. They live in a dream world. I'm a businessman myself, in and out of a dozen enterprises a year, and I make every investment pay off. I'm not in the racket for kicks, like these kids. You understand. You're a newspaper man, aren't you? Jim Quiller, from the Daily Fluxion. You newspaper guys are a good breed. You've got your feet on the ground. I know a lot of journalists. I know the managing editors of both papers, and the Fluxion sports editor, and your financial writer. They've all been up to my hunting lodge. Do you like hunting and fishing? I haven't done much of it, Quillerin admitted. To tell the truth, all we do is sit around with a bottle and shoot the breeze. You ought to come by and join us sometime. By the way, I'm Harry Norton. They shook hands, and Quillerin said, David tells me you have a house that might make good story material for the Fluxion's new decorating magazine. Norton stared at his shoes for a long minute before answering. Come in the other room where it's quiet, he said. They went into the breakfast room and sat at a marble-topped table, the promoter with his highball glass, and Quillerin with a plate of shrimp and mushrooms. Norton said, Whatever you've heard about my house in the hills is no lie. It's terrific. And I give David all the credit. That is, Dave and my wife. She's got talent. I don't have any talent myself. All I did was go to engine college for a couple of years. He paused and gazed out the window. But Natalie is artistic. I'm proud of her. I'd like to see this house. Well, here's the problem, said Norton, taking a long drink from his glass. The house is going to be sold. You see, Natalie and I are getting a divorce. I'm sorry to hear it, said Quillerin. I've been over that course myself. There's no trouble between us, you understand. She just wants out. She's got this crazy idea that she wants an artistic career. Can you imagine that? She's got everything in the world, but she wants to be creative, wants to starve in an attic studio, wants to make something of her life. That's what she says. And she wants it bad. Bad enough to give up the boys. I don't understand this art bug that gets into women these days. You have children? 2 sons. 2 fine boys. I don't know how she can have the heart to get up and walk away from them. But those are my terms. I get complete custody of the boys, and the divorce is forever. No willy-wagging. She can't change her mind and decide to come back after a couple of months. I won't play the fool for anyone, especially not a woman. Tell me, am I right? Quillerin stared at the man. Aggressive, rich, lonely. Norton drained his drink and said, I'll send the boys to military school, of course. Is Mrs. Norton a painter? Quillerin asked. No, nothing like that. She's got these big looms, and she wants to weave rugs and things for decorators to sell. I don't know how she's going to make a living. She won't take any money from me, and she doesn't want the house. Know anybody wants $250,000 worth of real estate? It must be quite a place. Say, if you want to write it up for the paper, it might help me to unload the joint. I'm leveling with you, understand? Is anyone living there now? Caretaker, that's all. Natalie's in Reno. I'm living here at the Villa Veranda. Wait till I flavor these ice cubes. Norton dashed to the bar, and while he was gone, the Japanese caterer quietly removed Quillerin's plate and replaced it with another, piled high. Like I was saying, Norton went on, I have this apartment that Dave decorated. That boy's got taste. Wish I had that boy's taste. I've got a wood floor imported from Denmark, a built-in bar, a fur rug, the works. I wouldn't mind seeing it. Come on and have a look. It's right here on this floor, in the north wing. They left the party, Norton carrying his highball glass. I should warn you, he said as they walked around the curving corridor. The colors are kind of wild. He unlocked the door to 15F and touched a wall switch. Quillerin gasped. Pleasant music burst forth. Rich colors glowed in pools of light. Everything looked soft, comfortable, but rugged. Do you go for this modern stuff? Norton asked. Expensive as heck when it's done right. With awe in his voice, Quillerin said, This is great. This really gets to me. The floor consisted of tiny squares of dark wood with a velvety, oiled finish. There was a rug as shaggy as unmown grass and half as big as a squash court. Like the rug? Norton asked. Genuine goat hair from Greece. It was surrounded on 3 sides by a trio of sofas covered in natural tan suede. A chair with inviting body curves was upholstered in something incredibly soft. Vicuña, said Norton. But try that green chair. That's my favorite. When Quillerin relaxed in the green chair and propped his feet on the matching ottoman, an expression of beatitude spread over his face. He stroked the sculptured, woolly arms. I'd sure like to have an apartment like this, he murmured. And this is the bar, said Norton, with unconcealed pride, as he splashed some liquor in his glass. And the stereo is in that old Spanish chest, the only antique in this place. Cost me a fortune. He sank into the Vicuña chair. The rent for this apartment is nothing to sneeze at either. But some good people live in this building. Good people to know. He named 2 judges, a banker, the retired president of the university, a prominent scientist. I know them all. I know a lot of people in this town. Your managing editor is a good friend of mine. Quillerin's eyes were roving over the wall of cantilevered bookshelves, the large desk topped with rust-colored leather, the sensuous rug, and the 3, not 1, but 3, deep-cushioned sofas. Yes, Ike did a great job on the decorating, he said. Say, you look like a regular guy, Norton remarked with a crafty look. How are you getting along with these decorators? They seem to be a congenial bunch, said Quillerin, ignoring the innuendo. That's not what I mean. Have you met Bob Orax? He's got a real problem. I'm used to meeting all kinds, Quillerin said, more curtly than he had intended. He had a newsman's capacity for identifying with his beat and defending its personnel, and he resented Norton's aspersions. Norton said, That's what I admire about you news guys. Nobody throws you. You take everything in your stride. Quillerin swung his feet off the ottoman and hoisted himself out of the green chair. Well, what do you say? Shall we go back where the action is? They returned to the party, Norton carrying 2 bottles of bourbon from his own stock, which he added to Lyke's supply. Quillerin complimented the decorator on the Norton job. Wish I could afford an apartment like his. What does a layout like that cost anyway? Too much, said the decorator. By the way, if you ever need anything, I'll get it for you at cost, plus freight. What I need, said Quillerin, is a furnished apartment. The place where I live is being torn down to make a parking lot, and I've got to be out in 10 days. Why don't you use Harry's apartment for a few weeks, if you like it so much, Lyke suggested. He's leaving for Europe, and he'll be gone a month or more. Quillerin blinked. Do you think he'd be willing to sublet? At a price I could afford? Let's ask him. Norton said, Heck no. I won't sublet. But if you want to use the joint while I'm gone, just move in. No, I'd insist on paying rent, Quillerin said. Don't give me that integrity jive. I've had a lot of good treatment from the papers, and this will give me a chance to say thanks. Besides, it's no skin off my back. Why should I take your money? Lyke said to Quillerin, There's a catch, of course. He'll expect you to forward his mail and take telephone messages. Quillerin said, There's another catch, too. I've got a cat. Bring him along, said Norton. He can have his own room and bath, first class. I could guarantee that he wouldn't scratch the furniture. It's a deal. I'm leaving Wednesday. The keys will be at the manager's desk, including the one for the bar. Help yourself to anything, and don't be surprised if I call you twice a day from Europe. I'm a telephone bug. Later, Lyke said to the newsman, Thanks for getting me off the hook. Harry was expecting me to do his secretary service. I don't know why, but clients think they've hired a wet nurse for life when they call on a decorator. It had happened so fast that Quillerin could hardly believe his good fortune. Rejoicing inwardly, he made 2 more trips to the buffet before saying goodnight to his host. As he left the apartment, he felt a tug at his sleeve. The caterer was standing at his elbow, smiling. You got Dougie at home? He asked the newsman. No, said Quillerin, but Dougie hungry. You take Dougie back, said the caterer. And he pushed a foil-wrapped package into Quillerin's hand.